It was a bright Monday morning in the city. Everyone was busy walking in and out of tall buildings, wearing neat clothes and holding fancy phones. But among the crowd was a tiny girl, barefoot, dusty, and clutching a small polythene bag. Her name was Ella, only 6 years old. Ella's eyes were red from crying. Her small body was weak, but her heart was strong. She didn't come to beg. She came to work. That morning, her mother had fainted again from a sickness they didn't understand. The nurse at the clinic shouted, "If you don't bring money today, we'll send your mother away." Ella didn't know any rich person, but she had heard about one, the famous billionaire, Mr. Michael Adams, who owned the tallest building in the city. They said he was very rich, but very strict. People feared him. Still, Ella didn't care. She wiped her tears with the edge of her dress and entered the giant building. Everyone stared at her. "Whose child is this?" a security guard barked. "Go back to your mother." But Ella stood still, raised a tiny hand, and said, "Please, sir, I want to work. I'm not here to beg." The guard laughed. "Work? You think this is a playground?" But Ella didn't leave. She sat on the cold floor near the reception. One of the staff, a kind woman named Grace, saw her and knelt beside her. "Little one, what's your name?" "Ella," she said, tears in her big brown eyes. "My mummy is very sick. They want to chase her from hospital. I don't want money. I just want to work to help her." Grace was touched. She gently held Ella's hand and said, "Come with me." People whispered and shook their heads as Ella walked past in her dirty dress. But Grace took her up to the top floor, to the CEO's office. Inside, Mr. Michael was signing documents. His face looked angry as always. "Sir," Grace said, "I know this is strange, but there's someone here to see you." "Do I look like I have time for jokes?" he snapped without looking up. "It's a child," she whispered. "She says she wants to work for you." Mr. Michael slowly raised his head. And there she was, Ella, standing quietly with her big eyes filled with tears, holding a small drawing she made with crayons. It was a picture of a girl giving a flower to a man. Underneath, she wrote in shaky letters, "Please let me work. I will clean your shoes. I will help. My mummy is dying." The room went silent. Michael stared at the drawing. He looked at the small girl, her dirty feet, and how she clutched a bag like it held her whole world. He slowly stood up. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice softer now. Ella took a shaky breath. "I'm Ella. I can wash, sweep, or run errands. Just please, don't let my mummy die. I don't want her to go like my daddy." Michael's face changed. He remembered something. His own daughter, who had died at 6. He walked around his table, knelt before Ella, and gently took the drawing from her hand. "You want to work?" She nodded quickly. "Then come," he said, holding out his hand. Everyone in the room gasped. The cold billionaire who never smiled, just held the poor girl's hand. He took her downstairs himself, to his car. "Let's go see your mummy." Ella's heart jumped. She quickly nodded, holding tight to his hand like her life depended on it. The staff stood frozen. Some took out phones to secretly record the moment. For the first time in years, the billionaire wasn't thinking of money. He was thinking of Ella, and how one little girl just walked into his world and changed everything. Inside the big black car, Ella sat quietly beside Mr. Michael. Her legs dangled off the edge of the seat because she was too small to touch the floor. She kept stealing glances at the man beside her, the billionaire who everyone feared. But he didn't look scary now. He looked worried. He kept looking at Ella's drawing again. His hand trembled slightly as he touched the crayon marks. Ella turned to him and asked softly, "Sir, do you really want to help my mummy?" Michael looked at her. "Yes, I do. What's her name?" "Her name is Nora. She's my mummy and my best friend. She never complains, even when she's crying." Michael nodded and gave a small smile, the first smile he had shown in months. They soon reached the hospital. It was not a nice place. The paint on the wall was peeling, the waiting room was full of sick people, and the nurses looked tired and frustrated. Ella jumped out of the car and ran inside barefoot. Michael followed closely behind. "Where's she?" he asked. Ella pointed. "Room 14. The nurse said if we don't bring money today, she will remove the drip and send Mummy home." Michael clenched his jaw and walked in. In room 14, Nora, a pale and fragile woman, was lying on the bed. Her eyes were closed, and her lips were dry. Michael stood at the door, frozen. She looked so weak. Ella rushed to her mother and held her hand. "Mummy, I brought someone. He said he will help." Nora slowly opened her eyes and tried to speak but only managed to whisper. "Ella, where did you go?" "I went to find a job, Mummy," Ella replied, smiling with teary eyes. "So you won't die like Daddy." Nora blinked. Then her eyes met Michael's. He stepped forward. "My name is Michael Adams. I want to help." Nora looked confused and tried to sit up, but her strength failed her. Just then, a nurse barged in with a file. "You again," she snapped at Ella. "We told you, if you don't bring money today, we're—" Michael cut in. "How much is the bill?" The nurse paused, her eyes widening. 150,000 Nigerian nairas for treatment, and 50,000 Nigerian nairas for previous bills." Michael brought out his phone. "Send the account details now. Also, move her to a private ward. And I want the best doctor here in 5 minutes." The nurse's mouth dropped open. "Sir, who are you?" He raised an eyebrow. "The person that will shut this hospital down if you delay one more second." The nurse rushed out immediately. Ella stared at Michael like he was a superhero. "Sir," she whispered, "are you an angel?" Michael knelt beside her. "No, but maybe you are." As the doctors rushed in, Nora was taken to a cleaner room with better care. The nurses now treated her like royalty. Ella sat beside her mother's bed, holding her hand. Michael sat on a chair nearby, watching. Something inside him had changed. Something warm. Something soft. Later that day, he asked Grace to bring new clothes for Ella. He also brought her food, rice, meat, and juice. As she ate, she looked at him and said, "Sir, can I still work for you?" Michael chuckled. "Why do you want to work so badly?" "Because I don't want to owe anyone," Ella replied seriously. "And if you help us, I want to help you too, even if it's to sweep your floor or carry your books." Michael's heart melted. This little girl had more dignity than some grown-ups he knew. Just then, his phone rang. It was his board of directors. There was an emergency meeting. Michael stood up. "Ella, I have to go now. But I'll be back tomorrow, okay?" "Okay, sir," she said, waving. Before leaving, he placed a small brown envelope beside Nora's bed. Inside was 500,000 Nigerian nairas, more than enough for treatment, food, and rest. But he didn't say anything. He just walked away quietly. As he entered his car, Michael stared out the window. He thought about his own daughter, who had died of cancer 5 years ago. If someone had helped them earlier, maybe she'd still be alive. Now, maybe, just maybe, helping Ella and her mum was his second chance. The next morning, the office building of Michael Adams Group buzzed with whispers. "Did you hear? They said the billionaire CEO came in yesterday, holding the hand of a small dirty girl." "Who is she?" "His lost daughter." "No, some poor girl who came to beg for a job." Everyone was curious. Some laughed, some rolled their eyes, but Grace, the kind staff who first brought Ella in, said nothing. She knew the truth. At exactly 9:30 a.m., the elevator opened. And there she was, Ella. But this time, she wasn't barefoot. She wore a simple pink dress Grace had bought for her. Her hair was combed and packed into 2 neat puffs. She still held her polythene bag, but her eyes looked brighter. Beside her was Mr. Michael himself. He held her small hand again as they walked through the lobby. Silence fell like snow. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stared. "She's back. With the boss. This is getting strange." Michael turned and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "This is Ella. She is my special assistant starting today. Anyone who disrespects her, disrespects me." Gasps filled the room. Special assistant. A few workers tried to smile, but you could see jealousy in their eyes. Some couldn't hide their anger. Michael took Ella to his private office, a large room with glass windows and soft leather chairs. A small table with crayons, paper, and toys was already waiting for her. "I don't know how to use all these," Ella said shyly. Michael smiled. You'll learn. You're smart. Later that day, Michael had a meeting with some partners. Ella sat quietly in a corner, coloring. At one point, she stood up, walked to a guest, and whispered, "Sir, your shirt is dirty at the back." The man looked shocked. Everyone giggled. But Michael laughed loudly. Ella has sharp eyes. That's why I hired her. After the meeting, one of Michael's senior staff, Mr. Desmond, pulled Grace aside. What's the meaning of all this? Why is the boss turning a street child into an employee? Grace calmly replied, because that street child has more heart than some of us here. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Nora was recovering fast. The private room was peaceful. She was eating well and sleeping better. A nurse came in and smiled. Madam, your daughter is famous now. The man she followed? He's the richest man in this city. Nora was shocked. My Ella? With a billionaire. She sat up, confused and grateful. Back at the office, Ella asked Michael shyly, "So, can I call my mummy?" "Of course," he said, handing her his phone. Ella pressed the nurse's number, and when Nora answered, her tiny voice cracked with joy. "Mummy, I wore pink today, and Sir gave me work. I have a desk in colors and juice." Nora cried softly on the phone. "My baby, thank you. Thank you, God." Later that evening, as Michael dropped Ella at the hospital, he said to Nora, "I hope you don't mind. She's very special. She reminds me of someone I lost." Nora's eyes filled with tears. "Sir, I don't know what to say. Thank you. May God bless you." Michael nodded. "Just get better. Ella needs you strong." As he walked away, Nora looked at her daughter with wonder. "And Ella?" She smiled and whispered, "Mummy, he said I'm special." That morning at Michael Adams' group, the tension was thick. Everyone was whispering about the little girl again, Ella. But someone else had been watching closely. Someone whose silence was louder than all the gossip. Brenda Kingsley. She was one of the company's most powerful executives, a brilliant inventor, respected worldwide for her mind. Her designs made billions. She was confident, bold, and beautiful in a fierce way. People called her the Iron Lady. But Brenda had a weakness. She was deeply in love with Michael Adams. For 5 years, she admired him. She brought him coffee, stood beside him during presentations, flew with him for meetings across countries. But no matter what she did, Michael never noticed her the way she wanted. He never smiled, never flirted, never looked. So when Brenda walked into the office and saw Michael laughing softly with a small girl sitting on his lap, showing him a drawing, her chest burned. She froze. The sound of Michael's chuckle echoed in her heart like betrayal. She stood at the glass door for a moment, her fists clenched. Then she pushed the door open hard. Michael looked up, surprised. Brenda. Brenda didn't greet. She marched forward and pointed at Ella. "What is this girl doing in your office, Michael?" Ella jumped a little, scared by her sharp voice. Michael's face changed. "She's not this girl. Her name is Ella." Brenda ignored that. "Why is a child sitting in your lap during work hours? Why is she even here? This is a business, not a playground." Ella quietly slipped off Michael's lap and moved to the corner, eyes full of confusion and fear. Michael stood up slowly, calm but firm. "She's my guest. She has a desk here. She's helping with things I care about." Brenda's voice grew sharper. "Helping? What can a 6-year-old possibly help with? Or is she replacing your team now? Maybe replacing me too?" Michael took a breath, trying not to raise his voice. "Brenda, I respect your work. You're one of the best minds in this company. But don't speak about Ella like that again. She's been through more than you know." Brenda laughed bitterly. "Oh, so now you defend her. You can't even smile when I win you awards, but you're giggling over crayons and cartoons." Ella watched them from the corner, her tiny arms hugging her drawing book. Michael's eyes narrowed. "Brenda, you're letting emotions cloud your judgment. I didn't bring Ella here for your approval. She's not just any girl. She's special." Brenda's voice cracked with emotion. "Special? Michael, I've stood by you for 5 years. I worked nights and weekends. I created your best-selling products. But all it took for you to smile again was, She pointed again at Ella. That was when Grace stepped into the office. She had heard enough. "Brenda, please," Grace said gently. "This child is not your enemy. She's just trying to save her mother's life. She came here looking for a job, not love." Brenda turned to Grace, her eyes sharp. Then maybe she should try an orphanage, not a billion-dollar company. Michael stepped forward. His voice was cold now. "That's enough, Brenda." Silence. Even Brenda froze. Michael's face was hard. "If you ever speak about her like that again, you'll be stepping out of this company." Brenda's lips parted, but no words came out. Michael turned away from her. "You may leave now." Brenda stood there for one more second, then stormed out of the office, her heels clicking like thunder. Grace rushed to Ella and hugged her. "It's okay, baby. Don't cry." I didn't do anything wrong," Ella whispered, tears building in her eyes. "No, you didn't," Michael said, kneeling down in front of her. "You did everything right." He handed her the crayon that had dropped. Ella gave a small smile and whispered, "Thank you, sir." Michael looked into her eyes. And for a moment, he saw his daughter again. Her innocence. Her strength. And he made a silent promise. He would protect her. No matter what. Brenda sat in her luxurious apartment, the lights dim, her heart full of anger. She sipped from a wine glass she hadn't touched in hours. Her mind was far from at rest. In front of her, two men dressed in black suits stood nervously. They were her private investigators. She had paid them handsomely for one mission: find everything about that little girl and her so-called mother. After 2 days, they had returned. "Well," Brenda said coldly, her eyes sharp. "Talk." The taller of the two stepped forward. He pulled out a file and began. "Ma, her name is Ella, but she is not the biological daughter of the woman in the hospital." Brenda narrowed her eyes. "Explain." The man opened the file and continued. "That woman, Nora, works as a cleaner in a local eatery. 6 years ago, according to some witnesses and old reports, a newborn baby was abandoned behind a warehouse near a popular nightclub. Nora, who lived in a nearby slum, found the baby in the early morning hours, wrapped in a dirty cloth, crying. Brenda's grip tightened on her wine glass. She took the baby to a clinic. When no one claimed the child after weeks, Nora adopted her. No paperwork. Nothing legal. Just by word of mouth. Brenda's lip curled. So the child is a street pickup. A nobody. The other man added, "We found one of the midwives from the clinic." She confirmed the story. Nora has raised Ella alone since then. She loved her, but the girl isn't hers by blood. Brenda leaned back on the sofa, smiling darkly. Well, this changes everything. The shorter man asked quietly, "Should we do anything with this information?" Brenda stood and walked to the window, staring out at the city lights. "I'm not a monster," she said slowly, "but I know how to use the truth." She turned around. "That little girl wants a job," she smirked. "Let's see what happens when the world knows she was abandoned, raised by a woman with no rights over her. Let's see if Mr. Michael still keeps her beside him when this truth comes out." Meanwhile, at the hospital, Ella sat beside Nora, humming a soft song. She was helping to feed her mother soup with a tiny spoon, smiling like the happiest girl on earth. "Mummy, guess what?" "What, my love?" Nora asked weakly. "Mr. Michael said I can sit in his big chair tomorrow." Nora laughed softly. "Really?" Ella nodded. "He said I'm his little helper." Nora looked at her and blinked back tears. "You're more than a helper, Ella. You are my gift, the best thing that ever happened to me." Ella beamed. "I love you, Mummy." Nora smiled. "And I love you, my little angel." Outside the hospital, a man with a camera took pictures from a distance. He dialed number. "I have the photos." Brenda's voice came through. "Good. Soon, everyone will know the truth. And when they do, that little girl will wish she never stepped into Michael's life." The next day, in Michael's office, Ella wore a yellow dress with white shoes. Grace had gotten it for her. Her hair was braided into a neat puff, and a small flower pin sat on the side. She was coloring quietly when Michael entered. "Good morning, assistant," he said, pretending to salute. Ella giggled and stood. Good morning, boss. Michael sat beside her and glanced at her drawing. Who is this one? That's you. And that's me. And that's Mummy with her soup. Michael laughed. I'm fatter in this one. Grace knocked and entered with a file. Sir, there's something I need to show you. She handed him a tablet with a headline. Exposed. Billionaire CEO takes in a fake child. Abandoned orphan found in warehouse. Not real daughter of sick woman. Michael's face hardened. He scrolled down. There were pictures of Ella feeding Nora outside the eatery, even a baby wrapped in cloth. The article said things like sympathy scam and street girl manipulates CEO. Ella looked up. So, what's wrong? Michael dropped the tablet. He looked at her gently, then at Grace. Who did this? Grace hesitated. We're checking, but I'm sure Brenda has something to do with it. Michael stood up. Call my lawyer. And send someone to check on Nora immediately. No one will use this child's past to destroy her future. Not on my watch. But across town, Brenda was already celebrating with a smug smile on her face. This is just the beginning, she whispered. Michael slammed the door to his office, his heart pounding hard. The tab with the headline about Ella trembled in his hand. His eyes were red. His breathing was heavy. Enough was enough. He marched down the hallway, past his staff, who could feel the tension in the air like lightning. Sir, are you okay? Grace asked as she followed him quickly. Michael said nothing. He headed straight to Brenda's office and kicked the door open. Brenda, who was sipping from a glass of juice, nearly jumped out of her seat. Michael. What? He walked straight to her, slammed the tab on her table, and pointed. Did you do this? Brenda blinked, pretending to be shocked. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me. Michael snapped. You sent people to dig up Ella's past. You followed her, took pictures. You leaked her story to the press. Brenda stood, arms crossed. I didn't leak anything. I just wanted the truth. The company's reputation is at stake. Michael pointed a finger in her face. You think I care about reputation more than a child's dignity? She's not even her real daughter, Michael. Brenda hissed. Nora picked her off the street. She's a mistake. Slam. Michael's fist hit her desk, shaking everything. Don't you ever call that girl a mistake again, he growled. If I find out you had anything to do with this again, I'll make sure you're not just fired, but disgraced from this industry forever. Brenda stared at him, speechless. She had never seen him like this. Michael turned and stormed out, his mind racing with fury and confusion. But there was one thing he knew now. He needed to know the truth. That evening, Michael drove himself, no security, no assistant, down to a small area near the outskirts of the city. It was where Nora lived. She had just been discharged from the hospital and was resting in her tiny one-room apartment, still weak but smiling as she watched Ella sing with a plastic spoon in her hand. There was a soft knock. Ella opened the door, and her face lit up. Sir. Michael entered slowly, his eyes scanning the little home. It was clean but small. Very small. He greeted Nora, sat down gently, and said, I need to ask you something. And I want the truth. Please. Nora nodded, nervous. Go ahead, sir. Michael looked at Ella, then back at Nora. Is she your biological daughter? Nora went quiet. Her hand trembled a little. After a long pause, she spoke softly. No, sir. Michael's heart skipped. She's not my blood, Nora continued. 6 years ago, I found her behind a warehouse, wrapped in cloth. She was barely a few hours old. There was a letter pinned to her cloth. Michael leaned forward. What did the letter say? Nora closed her eyes, recalling every word. I'm sick. I cannot raise her. I got pregnant from a one-night stand at Crest Club. I don't know the man. I never saw him again. I searched, but no face matched. Please, whoever finds her, raise her. I have no means to care for her. Forgive me. A heartbroken mother. Michael froze. His breathing changed. Crest Club. One night stand. A memory flashed like lightning. He was at Crest Club years ago. His friend had dragged him out to drink. He remembered being drugged, his vision blurred, waking up confused beside someone in a hotel room. A woman was asleep next to him. He left before she even woke up. He never thought about it again. Until now. Until this moment. Could it be? Michael stood up suddenly. I need to run a test, he said, breathless. Nora was confused. What kind of test? DNA test. I need to know. 2 days later, the results arrived in a sealed envelope. Michael sat alone in his office, hands shaking. He opened it. Read the result once. Then again. Then again. His eyes filled with tears. Paternity match, 99.98%. Michael Adams is the biological father of Ella. He dropped the envelope and covered his face. My daughter, he whispered. All this time, she wasn't just a girl who needed help. She was his own blood. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he stood up, grabbed his car keys, and drove straight to Nora's house. When he arrived, Ella was outside playing with a doll Grace had gifted her. Michael stepped out of the car and knelt before her. Ella, he said, voice trembling. Yes, so, she smiled brightly. He took her small hands in his. I'm not just your boss. She tilted her head, confused. I'm your father. Ella blinked. You are. Michael nodded, tears streaming. I didn't know. But now I do. And I'll never leave you again. Ella stared for a second, then jumped into his arms. My daddy, she cried. Nora stood in the doorway, crying too. Michael held his daughter tightly. Michael sat on the floor of Nora's small house, still holding Ella tightly in his arms. His tears soaked her tiny shoulder, but he didn't care. He had found something he thought he would never have again. His daughter. My baby, no wonder I felt this way about you, he whispered, stroking her soft hair. No wonder I smiled again. I didn't know why, but now I do. We're connected by blood. Ella looked up at him, confused but curious. You're really my daddy. Michael pulled back and looked deep into her innocent eyes. Yes, Ella. I'm your real father. She blinked fast, then slowly smiled. Does that mean I'm not a street girl anymore? Michael chuckled softly, his heart full. You were never a street girl. You're my princess. Nora, standing quietly by the wall, couldn't hold back her tears anymore. All these years, I didn't know a day like this would come. I just couldn't let her die in the cold. I gave her the only love I had. Michael stood and walked to her. He held her hand gently. You saved her. You raised her. And now, you are part of my family too. Nora's lips quivered. Thank you. Michael wiped his eyes and said, No, thank you. The next day, the Michael Adams Group's main office was packed. All staff had been summoned to the large glass conference hall. The media had been blocked from entering, but every top staff member was present, curious, whispering, confused. Michael walked in, holding Ella's hand. Grace stood at the back and smiled, already guessing what was coming. Michael stood before them and spoke into the mic. I called this meeting because I have something very important to say. The hall went quiet. He looked at Ella and then faced the crowd. You all met this little girl a few days ago. She came into our company with nothing but courage and a kind heart. People began nodding slowly. Michael continued. I thought I was helping her, but the truth is, she was sent to heal me. He took a deep breath. Ella is not just a guest here. She is my daughter, my biological child. Gasps filled the room. Grace's hands flew to her mouth, tears forming in her eyes. No wonder, she whispered to herself. Now I know why they felt so connected. Michael smiled proudly. For those of you who judged her, mocked her, whispered about her, I hope you now understand. Her strength, her light, her joy, it comes from within, and I am proud to call her mine. Everyone applauded, except one, Brenda. She sat in the corner, frozen, ashamed. The guilt was too heavy to hide. Later that day, she walked quietly into Michael's office. He was sitting with Ella on his lap, showing her how to sign her name. Brenda cleared her throat. Michael looked up, his eyes cold. Brenda stepped forward, her voice shaky. Michael, I came to say I'm sorry. He raised a brow. Brenda continued. I was blinded by jealousy. I let my emotions control me. I hurt an innocent child. I judged her without knowing the truth. Please, forgive me. She knelt down and turned to Ella. Ella, I was very mean to you. I'm so sorry. You're such a brave little girl. Please forgive me. Ella looked at her, then at her father. Michael nodded softly. Ella walked to Brenda and hugged her gently. It's okay. Just don't be mean again. Brenda burst into tears. Thank you. Michael stood. Brenda, I'll accept your apology. But never forget, kindness to the weak is the true test of strength. Brenda nodded. That evening, Michael made another move. He rented a beautiful house for Nora in a clean, safe estate. He also gave her a job in his company, supervising one of their foundation's child welfare programs. Nora couldn't believe it. You're giving me a house, she gasped. And a job. Michael smiled. You're family now, and family takes care of each other. Tears streamed down Nora's face. Ella jumped around the living room of their new home. Mummy, I have my own room, with curtains and flowers. Michael laughed and picked her up. And you'll have even more. I promise you, my daughter, I'll never let you suffer again. That night, Michael sat in the living room, watching Ella sleep peacefully beside Nora. His heart was full. Weeks passed, and life for little Ella had changed completely. From a dusty barefoot girl who once walked into a billionaire's office begging for work, she now wore a clean school uniform, polished shoes, and carried a pink backpack with her name embroidered on it in gold thread. Ella Adams. She was now officially enrolled in one of the best private schools in the city, a school where the children of ministers, governors, and top business tycoons studied. On her first day, Michael stood beside her at the school gate, holding her hand proudly. Are you ready, princess? He asked with a warm smile. Ella looked up at him, a little nervous. What if the other children don't like me? Michael knelt to her level and gently touched her chin. They'll love you. And even if they don't, remember, you're my daughter. And you've already won the biggest battles. Ella nodded, smiling. Okay, Daddy. He kissed her forehead. Go shine. As she walked through the school gate, heads turned. Students stared at the beautiful girl with bright eyes and neat braids. Teachers came to greet her, already briefed by the school director. Throughout the day, Ella made friends quickly. She was humble, smart, and kind, helping a boy find his missing pencil, sharing her snacks with a girl who forgot hers, and even correcting a wrong math sum on the board. One teacher pulled her aside and asked gently, Ella, who taught you to be so wise? She smiled and said, My mummy taught me love, and my daddy taught me courage. Back at home, Nora had settled into her new job at the Michael Adams Foundation. She now wore nice clothes, spoke at meetings, and was even working on a project to help other abandoned children like Ella. She couldn't stop thanking God. One evening, after Ella returned from school, she rushed to Michael's mansion, where he had now built a room specially for her, full of books, toys, and soft lighting. Daddy, she shouted as she ran into his arms. Michael caught her mid-air. How was school? Ella smiled wide. Amazing. I got a gold star today. He laughed and spun her gently. You deserve 10 gold stars. Grace visited that evening and brought cupcakes. She sat with Nora and smiled at the peaceful home. Look how far she's come, Grace whispered, watching Ella giggle with Michael. From the floor of our office to the heart of our boss. Nora nodded, her eyes filled with tears of joy. That night, as Ella lay in bed, she looked up at Michael, who tucked her in. Daddy. Yes, Angel. Promise me, you'll never let me go. Michael bent low and kissed her forehead. I promise. You're mine, and I'll always love you. Ella closed her eyes peacefully, and as the moonlight poured into the room, Michael sat there silently, watching his daughter sleep, the daughter he never knew he had, but now would give everything to protect. There were no more questions, no more doubts. Ella had ended well. From the dust of the street to the palace of her father's love. She was finally home. The end.